Let's talk about 10 acres on Prospect Creek out here in Thompson Falls, Montana. My name is McLaughlin here at Wilco Land. In this video, I'm going to go over common questions and FAQs. One big thing I'm going to talk about is access to this property and what it's like. I've actually walked to this property myself, so I'm really familiar with this piece of land. So I'm going to teach you the tools, how you can go access a property. I'm going to talk about some conversations we've had with Forest Service about access back here, and help you better understand what we're selling here, who the target audience is, and how you can get back here. So I'm going to click through a few photos to give you an idea of what we're listing, and go over a quick disclaimer. This isn't legal advice. It's not real estate advice. This is me simply sharing my thoughts and opinions on this property with you here today through my own due diligence and through my 10 plus years of experience selling land across the United States. So, this property had so much open usable space. It's on Prospect Creek. It's going to be a great property for recreation, for hunting, maybe some sort of off-grid cabin back here, a yurt, or even, like I said, you put game cams up, you spend the weekend out here, and you go hunting, right? Whatever the use is going to be, you're adjacent to National Forest, you've got Prospect Creek running through your property, and you've got a lot of privacy and seclusion back here, and a lot of flat areas, right? So let's talk about the topography in this video. I'll pull it up on satellite imagery, I'll pull it up on Onyx Maps, and all that good stuff throughout the video. So that's enough of looking at photos. You can see, this property offers a lot of usable space. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So first of all, I want to pull up the property on Onyx Maps and show you where it's located on a map. The way I got to the property is you're going to take Montana State Highway 471. This is Thompson Falls. Let's take a peek at it here on a map too to help you understand where we're at. This is Thompson Falls, Montana. This is Plains, Montana. Up here you got Sandpoint, you've got Coeur d'Alene over here, you've got Wallace, Idaho right here. So, you're going to access the property on this main road. This is a paved road, Montana Secondary Highway 471, and this is Bald Eagle Lane right here. Let's talk about how I accessed it now that we know where we're at. So you can come down Bald Eagle Lane. That's on Forest Service land, okay? I drove all the way to right here, and we parked right here. So you can get off, like this is on National Forest right here, Bald Eagle Lane is, and you can access it and you can park your car right in this section right here. I'll draw it out for you. There's a really good parking area. Pull your car off, and you can park it right there, right? So what I did was I walked from right there back to the property. All you do is kind of hug the property line right here. It's a really easy walk, and it's only, let's say you park right here. To get to the property is about 300 yards. Like I said, it was a really easy walk. Took me 5-10 minutes is all, if that. Okay, so you're gonna park. You're gonna come off Bald Eagle Lane. You're gonna park somewhere you feel comfortable and safe. You're gonna just walk through Lolo National Forest to the front of the property right here, and look how open it is. You can enter the property really easily right here. There are a lot of wetlands on the property, so I think the property is probably better suited for off-grid cabin on stilts. I've seen a lot of that in Alaska, working in Alaska. Yurts, seasonal camping, seasonal use, recreation, hunting, things like that. Somebody's going to get a really good land investment out here in Montana. Across the river is kind of a cool area too. You actually own all this land across the river too. So this section is a large section that's got a ton of flat, open, usable space that fronts Prospect Creek. That's about almost 3 acres right there. And then to cross the creek, you own all this land back here, which would be about 7 acres. So really a unique, fun recreational land investment with a lot of opportunity to work with the Forest Service, to work with your neighbors, and get dedicated road access to it. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video, how that process works with Forest Service, how it's going to work with your neighbors. To be clear, we are selling the property currently with hike-in access, with walk-in access, without road access. If there were road access, this would be double or triple the price, right? If you're familiar with this market. So, you're not going to figure out access before buying the property. I just want to be clear about that. Maybe you know somebody at Forest Service, maybe you can have some of those conversations, but they don't want to call from all 100 leads that we get on this property asking about access. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. There is a pathway to acquiring access. There's no guarantee, but there is a pathway. The future landowner is going to have to go through that on their own. That's going to build a lot of equity in the land and adds a lot of value after the purchase. But the reality is this thing will sell pretty fast. Especially for recreational property at this price range. And somebody's going to buy it with hike and access, and it's going to be their project over the next year or two to figure out how they can put a road in back to their property, because there used to be one that actually got back here. So there's a little bit of history on that too. So that's a lot I wanted to talk about was access. That's going to be a lot of people's big questions. The people who are looking at the property, they know what's back here. They know it's adjacent to Forest Service. They're hunters. They know how to use Onyx, things like that. So it's an opportunity for somebody to get property half a market value with some easy hiking access. Put your yurts up back there. Build some sort of off-grid cabin on stilts, things like that. Those are some really good ideas for weekend recreational use on a property like this. So, talking about access more in the long term, what you can do is, Forest Service had granted these people access at some point, right, on Bald Eagle Lane. So we had a conversation my business partner did with Forest Service. They were surprised this property didn't have access. At one point, this was part of a larger mother property, and somebody subdivided these into 10-acre lots. It wasn't done correctly because there should be dedicated access to each one of these properties. And right now, there's only a road that gets to, these few properties right here. So what are your options? Your options are to talk to your neighbors, which you're going to do after you buy the property. They don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry rolling up to the front of their house. Imagine they're going to say no to you, right? If everybody's coming and knocking on their door, that's going to upset somebody, right? So the play with a property like this is you buy it, you let it sit, you talk with Forest Service, you talk with your neighbors, you're the new owner, right? They don't want everybody from all over the place knocking on their door, asking them for access. That's just not how things work. So I want to be clear about that too. And Forest Service doesn't want to call from every single person who's seen this listing, asking them how access works. I'll talk about it right here, right now. Basically, the way we understand it through our conversation is, yes, Forest Service doesn't want to issue another road that goes straight in from right here. So they're going to want somebody to use this road. And then you're going to have to, whatever these owners paid for this road minus depreciation, you're going to have to cover some of those costs. So let's say this road cost, $50,000 to get to this point, and then you're going to keep it going back here. Let's say it's depreciated $10,000 over the last decade, $40,000 total. You're going to have to cover that between Corey Leland, Ed Dwyer, Sharon Heath, whoever's using the road. You're going to need to pitch in. It's kind of like paying back taxes. They've paid $40,000 for the road. It's or $50,000 for the road. It's depreciated $10,000. It's split between 3 people. That's about $13,000 a person. So you'd owe them $13,000. Then you're paying for your section to get back here. That's the way I understand it. I don't think Forest Service is super receptive to coming straight in back here. Maybe they are, but again, you have to submit applications. You have to have conversations with the Forest Service. You have to explain to them where you're building, where you want the road to be, things like that. So there's going to be a couple pathways. Your pathway is probably coming off the highway straight back here or branching off the current road, which is what Forest Service had mentioned to us is what they're going to prefer somebody to do. And then instead of coming into this driveway, you're going to keep going through Forest Service land and come into your property right here. Okay, so it's going to involve a conversation. It's going to involve applications, and it's going to involve some conversations with the neighbors too. So I do genuinely think there is a solid pathway to acquiring road access to this property. That's going to happen down the road for the future owner. You're getting the property as a recreational value right now with a lot of potential to get a road finished to the property. It's going to take some work and things like that. So keep that in mind. It is being sold as is the way it is today. This does sum up the property pretty well. If you're interested in viewing it, feel free to go look on your own. It is a really nice piece of land. I've got a lot of great photos depicting what it is. I know there's a lot of wetlands on the property, so maybe it's not even worth getting. I think these are a lot of wetlands. That's why I say building on stilts and stuff. I'm just not confident, a septic system is going to get approved back here, so it might not be worth all the money and time getting a road back there. It might be a pretty solid recreational hike-in property. But again, I haven't done all that homework. I've done a surface level of due diligence. I've made my calls. I've walked the property. I thought it was a great piece of land, and somebody's going to end up with a really awesome land investment out here in Montana with this property. So if you have any more questions, give us a call. The way you're going to view the property is using these GPS coordinates. All I'm doing is plugging them into Onyx Maps. This is a really helpful app for land viewings. I have the Elite version or the Pro version, so I can see these people's property lines and walk the property really well. You can read more about the property details in the listing here. I do have other listings in Montana, in Idaho, kind of across the United States, Wyoming, places like that. So if you're looking for affordable land investments, we're definitely a good opportunity for that. We've got property in Wyoming, some more property in Montana here. This is a cool property up here on the Middle Fork of the Flathead River, down in Lemhi, Idaho, all over the United States. So take a peek at the website. Let us know if you have questions about anything on the website here. You can reach us at 605-299-5553. Thanks for tuning in.